Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kristen, and to continue my birthday month, I think we should read like a Leo this week. We're trying out a new location today. We get Beyonce joining us over there on her stool. She's napping though, she's too busy for this. Because it is my birthday month, I decided why not try reading like a Leo for a week. So starting today, Monday, August 11th, I will be reading 4 different books that all have characters with Leo traits or characteristics. The 4 books I've picked out are Legendborn, City of Girls, Good Rich People, and The Lioness. I went through a ton of different websites and different links and different articles to try to find just a good list of books that I could choose from. These 4 books, one was taken from a Reader's Digest article, which I wasn't expecting, and then the other 2 were taken from Libby Life articles. I'm going to leave those links down in the description below, so just in case you want to try to find your own. Although those might be Leo specific, I can't really remember, but even if they are, maybe you could read like a Leo too. While I was going through all of these articles, there were 3 books that were continuously recommended to me, and a lot that just in general, I didn't really have any interest in reading. The 3 that were continually recommended are the ones I'm going to put on screen here. 2 of these I've read in school, Great Gatsby and Pride and Prejudice. One was high school and one was university. And I also have read The Selection, and I think it's the main series of the Selection books because I know they did some other ones where they follow the daughter or something. And I read these when I was getting ready to move from California to Minnesota. While they were entertaining enough, they were fine. They're not really ones that I want to revisit and not really any that I'm interested in. I was kind of annoyed that these 3 in particular kept getting recommended over and over and over, but that's okay because I don't have to read them. I'm going to be grabbing all 4 of these books from my local library, and I'm going to try to see if I can get through all 4 this week. Originally, I was going to read all of these books next week, but next week is my actual birthday and there's a lot going on just in general. So this week is a bit quieter and I've bumped it up a week. I think the first book that I'm going to start with is The Lioness because it already came in, and this one it's got a lion in the title. Leo, lion. That should be a good omen. So I'm hoping this is a good start to the week, and let's go ahead. I'll keep you guys updated when I finish it, and let's go. Let's start reading like a Leo. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I don't know if I've done the intro. No, I have. I've done the intro. We don't need to do that. But I've been filming all day and I'm a little tired. Again, I need to be better about making notes, and I also need to do better at just filming my thoughts right after I'm done with a book. But that's neither here nor there. I am going to be starting The Lioness by, I think I'm going to say this name so wrong, and I kind of don't even want to try to pronounce it for fear of mispronouncing it so badly. This is the first book I'm going to start reading for my week of reading like a Leo, and it sounds really interesting. It's about like a movie star who goes on a safari and everything goes wrong. So count me in. I will continue to update you guys as I go through the book. Actually, no, I'll probably just update when I finish the book. I may not get too in depth with it, but maybe I will give a lot of spoilers. You don't know and I don't either, so I guess we're going to find out together. But this will be the first book for my reading like a Leo for a week. Let's get started. I was going to say we're watching Allie. We're on our last sprint, but she left. She's back. That's our cult leader. Okay, so Monday and Tuesday, I ended up reading The Lioness, and I ended up giving this 3 stars. I'm going to try not to give too many spoilers just in case you want to read it yourself, because the premise is really interesting, but overall it wasn't super memorable, and it was fine, but definitely not my favorite. So The Lioness is about a group of Hollywood stars and their friends and family, and they go on a safari. There's 13 characters in all, but not all of them make it out in the end. It's pretty fast paced. It starts off with a kidnapping pretty close to the start of the story, and things just stay pretty hot until the very end. So I kind of like that. The ending did feel a bit rushed. It felt a little bit like the author wasn't sure what to do with the remaining characters and just kind of had to figure something out really fast, wanted to end the book rather quickly. So the ending kind of fell off because it felt like it just ran into a wall and stopped. The Hollywood stars that go on this safari call themselves the Lions of Hollywood, and it's really only one of them that's paying for it. The one who's paying for it is the biggest star of them all. She's got big money, and everyone loves her. Everyone in the friend group loves her. The world loves her. She's just one of those people that you can't hate. My takeaway from it was at the beginning of the book, you think, oh, the Lioness, it's going to be about this big major star because she outshines everybody, but she's such a nice person. But that's not what I got. You don't get a lot of POVs because this is a multiple POV book, and you actually don't get a lot of point of view chapters from that character. She doesn't get a lot of screen time, pun intended. However, there is another character who is kind of a secondary actress. She's never the leading lady, but she's in a lot of movies, just not as big as the first character. The way she handles herself during this kidnapping and through all the trials that they have to go through, she's the one who feels more like a lioness in the end. We don't really find out the reason behind the attack and the kidnapping until closer to the end, and it wasn't the biggest surprise in the world. Some of the characters start talking amongst themselves when they can and when they're allowed to. They're kind of theorizing what the reasoning might be. And there are hints dropped throughout the book as well. So it wasn't too surprising. It was kind of a nice little twist. You were also led almost the entire time to believe, okay, well, it can't just be about, oh, these people are famous and we're going to kidnap them for money. And it was all right. I could see how you could get Leo vibes from some of the characters. Not my favorite. I don't know if it was the most accurate portrayal of a Leo, but there were Leo traits, Leo aspects. It was all right. It was pretty fun. Not super memorable though, so that's a little bit disappointing. I would like to read more from this author. They had a list of their books in the beginning, and so I'd definitely give them another shot. This was okay. Not my favorite. Had some Leo traits, Leo vibes, but I think we could have done a little bit more. Overall, not too bad of a start though. Good Rich People. I read this one during Sprints yesterday, and this one was also fine. I think I gave this one 3 stars as well. It's a thriller. It's kind of a psychological thriller, and it's okay. It was a bit confusing with things like the timeline and the ending. I am going to have to go back and probably reread the last 2 chapters, because the very last chapter, the start of it mirrors the very first chapter. And so when we got to the last chapter and I was reading, I was like, oh, okay, this is how we enter the book. But the end of the very last chapter, I wasn't sure whose POV I was really reading from, because we get 2 POVs in this book. We get Lila, who is the wife of the husband. That couple is this super rich couple, and they live in this really big fancy house that's owned by his mom, who's like stupid rich. And they're also, the mom and the son are really psycho. The other POV is from a character named Demi, or Demi, I guess. And she has moved into the guest house of the rich couple. I read somewhere that this book would be for people who enjoyed the movie Ready or Not, and another book that I can't think of the title of. So I was assuming that this would be along the lines of Ready or Not, or I think it's called The Most Dangerous Game. And it was kind of like that, but in a different way. It was more psychological instead of actually hunting people down with weapons. Overall, the relationship between the son and the mom was really creepy and really weird, but they're both kind of psychos, so it kind of makes sense. Lila was really confusing with how she wanted to fit into this weird family dynamic, but at the same time, she didn't want to fit in the same way. And the timeline thing was kind of confusing because you would switch back and forth. You would get a pretty decent amount of chapters with Lila, and then you'd switch POVs to Demi, and you'd also get a fair amount of chapters. When we would swap over to a new POV, we would backtrack a little bit and then continue moving forward, but it would be hard to tell at times what events, if any, have transpired like between two different characters during that new POV, if that makes sense. I would see something, I'd be reading like Demi's point of view, and then we'd swap back over to Lila and we'd backtrack a little bit and then keep moving forward, and I would go, oh, okay, wait, this part that I'm reading right now, that happened during this chapter of Demi. It was just a little confusing though. I want to say I could see how this could give Leo vibes. It's mostly from the way Lila, her husband Graham, kind of the mom, all carry themselves, but those definitely portray what I would say is the more negative traits of Leos, or how people would see Leo's traits sometimes being as a negative. They're very full of themselves. They think they're better than everybody. Those characters take it from just like being really confident and thinking like, oh yeah, I'm the shit, but they're not putting others down. These people take that, but they do put other people down. They take it and they just crank it up to 100. I do think this book is also satire. They're trying to say a lot about just rich people in general, like the really filthy rich. And that's probably a part of why they took those traits and then just cranked up the ridiculousness. So I can see it, but as a Leo, I'm a little offended. We are not all bad. It's not my fault if we're just better, okay? I'm kidding. It's a joke. I was trying to keep my expectations low during reading sprints because I got about a third of the way in and I was like guessing a couple of things. I was making my own theories. I was getting a couple of things right, but I was like, this might be headed in a direction that may be a little underwhelming. And it kind of was. There were a few things at the end that I didn't expect. They weren't shocking necessarily, but I didn't really expect things to go in that direction, which is fine, but I would say keep your expectations low if you read this. Don't go into it expecting some really big, wild ride, fast pace, a twist around every corner thriller. Just keep expectations low and it'll be a fun ride. The next book I'm going to be reading is City of Girls, and that's on audiobook. I'm going to start that today. And then I have to go pick up Legendborn at the library, so I'm going to go on a little walk if it doesn't rain and grab that later today. So this book emotionally destroyed me. I am recovering. I'm doing a little bit better, but completely and emotionally destroyed in the best way. I was not expecting to find a 5-star, honestly, after the first couple of books, but City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert absolutely is 5-star. This is definitely one of my favorite books of the year so far, and it might end up being one of my favorite books of the entire year at this rate. I can't tell you how much I love this book. Just from the very beginning, the first line of chapter 1 is in the summer of 1940 when I was 19 years old and an idiot. That sold me right there. This book is so good. It's incredible. All of the characters we meet in this book have some kind of, well, maybe not all of the characters, but a majority of the characters have some kind of trait that could represent a Leo. The city itself, because most of the book is based in New York City, has a lot of Leo traits. And it's so good. It dives full into this young woman who drops out of college just because she basically is like, I'm not feeling this. I don't really want to do it. And her parents don't know what to do with her. She doesn't know what to do with herself. And her parents ship her off to the city with her aunt. And her aunt runs a theater company. And she gets involved into the theater life. She gets pulled into the city, pulled into the theater, pulled into all the different lives of all these different characters. And it's just so damn good from start to finish. This book was a 5-star. This is definitely a coming of age story because the main character, when we meet her, she's 19, but throughout the whole book is essentially a letter that is being written in 2010. So we're following her basically from 1940 when she's 19 years old all the way up until 2010. I don't know. I can't do the math. What's the math on that? I just did the math. She's like about 90 years old. But she's writing this letter to a young woman who she knew the young woman's father, and we get that relationship at the very end of the book. But the journey she goes on to find who she is, like basically discover who she is as a person, her life is shaped by all of these different people that she meets through like the city and from back home, a couple of folks from back home. Her life is also shaped by the events that she goes through, not just in her personal life with all of these different people, the relationships that she's had, the friendships that she has, but they also go through World War II, and she's a part of that. She's working at a Navy shipyard at the time. I don't know if you can hear all the sirens going off right now. I hope you can't. But if you can, sorry, I can't control that. I know I said in my Best Books of 1987 videos that I am not a fan of literary fiction, and I think overall that still stands. I think this does count as literary fiction. It's a coming of age story because we're following a young person as they discover who they are, they discover things about themselves, their life gets molded as they interact with all these different people. But this is done well. This is just, God, this is such a good book. It emotionally destroyed me when I started this on Thursday, August 14th, and then finished it on Saturday, the 16th. And as soon as I got done with it, I messaged in my friend's little group chat. I was like, I'm emotionally destroyed. And Allie has also read this book, and she understood exactly where I was coming from. I could not have asked for a better book to represent a Leo, and because Leos typically are very sure of themselves. I myself am on the cusp of a Leo Virgo, so I have a little bit of both, and sometimes the Virgo comes out a little too much. When a Leo is very sure of themselves, they are very sure of themselves, of ourselves, I should say. Let me correct that. We're very sure of ourselves. We're very confident, but our character is so young. And even though at times she thinks of herself as an adult, she's still a very young woman. And so when she meets all these different people that she looks up to and she becomes friends with, then she learns a lot more about herself, and you can see her becoming more confident throughout the book. And by the end, she is proud of who she is. She's maybe not proud of everything that she's done, but by the end of the book, she is proud of herself and she's proud of who she's become. I need to get a copy of this because I will 100% be rereading this. It's so good. It will emotionally destroy you, but you will want that. You will want to be emotionally destroyed by this book, 100%. Legendborn was 4 stars. This was a way better book than I was expecting. I'm not sure what I was expecting when I went into it. I think I was just expecting a very basic kind of young adult adventure. This kid kind of discovers that she has powers and has to deal with the outcome of that, and maybe has to go against the bad guys. This book is way more than that, by a long shot. Legendborn, our main character, Bree, is pretty confident in who she is when we first meet her. I think she's 16. She's pretty young, but she's going to this early college program at University of North Carolina. Even though she's around a lot of university students who are going to be a little bit older than she is, she's still pretty confident in herself. However, once she starts getting involved in this Legendborn secret society, like this King Arthur secret society, and there's magic, there's legends, she has her own brand of magic, that's when she starts to lose a little bit of confidence in herself because she's trying to figure out where she belongs, not only on campus, but in the secret society and in the world because she's lost her mom. She's lost her way a little bit and doesn't really know where to go afterwards. But like City of Girls, we have a main character who starts off fairly confident in themselves, fairly self-assured of who they are, but goes on a journey and they end up finding out a lot more about themselves and in the end become a lot more confident in who they are. I really enjoyed that we had a Black female main character for this. It does handle topics of racism, both microtransgressions and just blatant in-your-face racism towards our main character and towards other Black characters as well that we meet in the book. But I had a really good time with this. I enjoy like legends like King Arthur, and there's a lot about the King Arthur stuff in here. There were some twists I did not see. I'm not going to go any further into that in case you haven't read this yet. I very highly recommend reading it. I'm going to be continuing the series because we end on kind of a cliffhanger, I'll say that much. But this was a really fun adventure to go through. And I think it, just based off the summary, so much more happened than I wasn't expecting. After starting off with the Lioness and Good Rich People, I enjoyed those, but I feel like we ended on a really strong note with both Legendborn and City of Girls. So I am glad that I kind of saved those until the end because I think had I started with one of those, especially if I had started with both of them, I would have ended on not a sour note, but I wouldn't have ended as excited because this was fun to do. I enjoyed doing my research and trying to figure out what reading like a Leo would be. And I'm glad of the choices that I made. I would like to do this again, although I might do Virgo next time. Hell, we may just go through all of the star signs because there were some on these lists that would list the other star signs and books that go with it that also sounded really interesting. And I'm a nosy person, so I wanted to read those as well. But I'm glad that we ended with City of Girls and with Legendborn. I still enjoyed Good Rich People. I still enjoyed The Lioness. But the characters in City of Girls and the story with Legendborn just, they had a tighter hold on me. I felt like we dove into the story a lot more with those two books as compared to the first two. I think these were all good choices though. I had a good time. And I'll be honest, I am really glad that I only picked 4 because originally I was like, I'll pick 7 books, 1 for each day of the week. And then the one brain cell that I have was like,
is that a good idea?
And the answer is no, that would not have been a good idea, especially because this book ended up being like 920 pages. To be fair, it's large print. I don't know if you can see that. It's a large print book, so there's going to be more pages. City of Girls and Legendborn were both longer books than I was expecting. So if I had picked out 7 books that were probably 400 pages or more for each day, I would not have had a good time. I would have burned myself out. So I think 4 books was a good compromise. I was able to take my time with the books and not have to rush through them and go, oh my God, now I gotta pick up another one and read that. So I almost bamboozled myself, but I didn't. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know below if you've read any of these or if any of these have piqued your interest and you might want to read them yourself. Also, let me know your star sign down below. Even if you think it's all just a silly, goofy time, it's still fun. So let me know what star sign you are. Let me know if you're a Leo. Happy birthday to us Leos. But thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.